Right, so I was just on the point of Speechify. Speechify will read the article to you. I found that if it's a really interesting article, I'll listen to it once, and usually I'll put in my earbuds or some kind of headphone, and I'll go about doing something else and listen to it. Something else that doesn't require my mental focus. And what I will then do is listen a second time with a notebook and I make notes. Because remember, you're not looking for direct quotes usually. We do direct quotes, and if you do that, then you definitely need to give credit to the author specifically. Put it in quotation so that whomever is reading your work know that you are using the direct words of the author. However, usually you're looking for the ideas or what they said, and I will paraphrase, I'll use my own words or give my understanding of what was said. So at the very pinnacle are journal articles. And as I said, there are thousands of articles and there are there are thousands of journals rather, and there are millions of articles. So you can find an article on almost anything. Yeah, so that's where I am. I actually wrote to my supervisor maybe early April and told her I wanted to extend the time for completing my first draft of the literature review. This is just a first draft, right? And I know I have more literature written than I actually probably will eventually use, because I think the university requires a maximum of 150 pages for the dissertation, I think, and I'm almost up to half of that in literature. Right, so I know it's not all of it is not going to be used, but this is only for a first draft. There's cutting and adjusting and so on to be done, so that will come in time. So I'm not overly concerned about that. But back to the point, I said to my supervisor I wanted to extend the time. Not that I had to, but to be quite honest with you, I was so enjoying discovering all this stuff. I had never, for example, heard about epigenetics before. Epi is, I think it's Latin for on top of, or is it Greek? One of those, for on top of. So we have our genetic makeup and they've mapped the human genome, as you know. But in addition, there is an outer layer that forms, and that forms based on experiences. So there's a whole field, there's a whole study of epigenetics, and I've read I don't know how many of our papers and annual reviews. This is another one. Let me put this in quickly. So let me just finish the point. So I wanted to extend the study. I actually extended the study, the literature review time, because I was so enjoying the deep dive into fascinating works that have been done. And it really helped. I'm going to come back to the point of annual reviews in a moment, just making a mental note of that. But it really helped me because as we deal with this issue of George Floyd, and George Floyd was only a match that ignited a pile of kindling that had been there and sitting for a very long time. And now the world has pretty much erupted. Certainly the US has, but we see protests all over the world. I've seen protests in Lagos, Nigeria. I've seen protests, I think, certainly in the UK, they've started to take down statues and all kinds of stuff. But it helped that I had recently dived into the history as it related to slavery. I spent a lot of time looking at the history of slavery for my literature review. So it gave good context, good solid information. And one of the things that I've found is that, as we're on social media, most people are, you will hear all kinds of comments and there are lots of Facebook experts now. But when you read academic literature, you are in a better position, not a perfect position, but a better position to give meaning to an understanding of a number of factors, including these issues that we are facing as a planet right now as it relates to how Black people have been marginalized in so many places. All right, so I was talking about annual reviews. There is actually a site called Annual Reviews. And what happens is that these are academics who will then do a review, an annual review of the work done in a particular field on a particular topic or subject within a year. And that can be very rich if you can find one that directly relates to something that you want to or you are studying. So there are a few of them I have actually looked at. They're usually pretty long, 20 plus pages, sometimes more. So you've got to put time into that. but I found that that can be very, very, very useful. So I think annual reviews will sit right alongside peer-reviewed journal articles. Yeah, peer-reviewed journal articles are very, very useful if you can find good ones. When I said good, I meant good as in related to your work. You know, we take it that peer-reviewed journal articles are solid and you can rely on them. So that's what I've been doing mostly for the last end March, April, May, early June, so 2.5 months. I've also been doing other work. I mean, my consulting work, so I've worked with clients over the last few months, mostly always online. So we do have some clients who've continued to do work online, and we're now starting back up like many people. Our offices have reopened, and we're getting things going again, and making contact with clients and so on, and so we're moving on. So yeah, this is another installment in the PhD Chronicles. I think it's going well. I have to do chapters 1 and 3. So my plan is to submit this literature review draft 1 for somewhere, I would say, in the next 2 weeks, because I'm close to the end. I think I have one more section to look at, so I'm pretty close to the end of it, and then I'll tidy it up. I'll submit it to my supervisor. She will have a look at it and give me, I imagine, copious feedback of all kinds, which I expect, and then I'll have a look again, do a draft 2 and so on. But I will also work on my introduction, chapter 1, and my methodology, which is chapter 3. Now, luckily, I've started those 2 already, so that should not be too tough, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so that's where things are with the PhD Chronicles. People keep asking me, is it hard? No. Do you require special or above average intelligence? People will argue about that. I don't know. I would say the number one thing that you need is focus. Well, let's not say number one. The biggest things or the most important things that you need are focus, discipline, dedication. Yeah. If you've got those and you have a decent understanding of what you'd like to do, put those 2 together. You probably, or put those all together, you probably can get through it. I'll use my mother's term, stick-to-itiveness. You've got to stick with it. Because it can get heavy. There's a lot, and I said at the earlier part, in part 1 of this video, that I thought at times I bit off more than I can chew. So it can get heavy, and to be quite honest, there were times when for days I didn't touch anything. So much so that when I decided, okay, let me get going again, I needed to go and say, okay, what was I writing here? What was this about? That's completely fine. When you do a PhD, at least at this point in my life, I don't have to get this part done by this day. It's okay if other things are happening in life and I close the laptop and move on and go and do those things. That's completely fine. You don't pressure yourself too much, because this is not a sprint. It's a marathon. So folks, Richard Solomon, PhD Chronicles. Look out for another one whenever I make them. Hopefully I'm going to start making them more often now. But this was a big one, right? So I don't know. I hope I redeemed myself a little bit with a little bit more than, because I've been silent for the last 2.5 months or so. All right, great. See you soon. Take care. Peace.